Hello, Doctor Tamari. How are you?
Good morning. I'm feeling really good. And you?
I'm doing well also. Got my hot tea, hanging out with Doctor Tamari, talking about health and mood. I'm very excited. I love this stuff. Let me just give a quick welcome to everybody. Welcome for joining us. Today we're going to dive in with Dr. Yotam Tamari and talk about mood and all things mood related from Dr. Tamari's perspective and Chinese medicine perspective. And last time we talked to Dr. Tamari, you also talked a little bit about Chinese medicine as kind of the umbrella.
Welcome! Here is your hostess and coach, Chandra Zas, helping people make food and mood changes doable without missing out. Go ahead, high five that like button, subscribe and share while you're there.
And part of your specialties is the Qigong and can you give me just a little bit more of like an umbrella of that so I can be a little more specific with that?
Yes. So the Chinese medicine gives us a really detailed map of how our organs related to nature, how each organ operates in the rules of nature, and how to apply these rules in life.
Hello, my friend. How are you? I'm in the Dead Sea floating in the water. Go ahead and like and share and follow so we can keep in touch.
And besides that, more of my expertise is to understand how to improve and how to bring beneficial to the person with breathing exercise and physical exercise, and as well nutrition. So it's all related to the view of the Chinese medicine, but the practical method is from all kinds of worlds that's pointing us to the most natural space that we can be, which is no resistance and full flow of energy.
Ooh, I love it.
Yes.
No resistance and full flow of energy. Can we dive right in on that topic, or did you have something more to say?
Yes. So in Chinese medicine, this topic calls Whoo Wei, doing by not doing. So that's the principal idea which Qigong and Tai Chi is building on. Not wasting our energy and just using the energy that there is to sustain us. So there are two ways. One of them in Qigong is to harvest energy from the environment by doing specific exercise for specific organs, like we spoke before. And Tai Chi is much more higher level, that we are radiating our energy to our aura, to our magnetic field, and letting this energy come back to us and nourish us. So this is like more self-sustainable energy source that sustain itself. And in Qigong, we are bringing more energy from the environment to the individual. So, and it's all really relying on breathing. Because when we breathe, we can come acknowledge that the energy that they're already flowing. And by acknowledging the energy that's already flowing, we don't need to resist. We just need to let the energy flow, just to feel it, just to become conscious about it. And breathing, and through breathing, we can become conscious to every specific action that we are doing.
So how does this connect? So actually, I want to start with a kind of basic question. So how do you view emotions and energy? Like, what's the kind of...
Yes. So in Chinese medicine, it's really interesting to investigate the idea of emotions through the writing, because the language of the Chinese, it's all symbols. So when you're reading something, the symbol can bring an idea to the thing that you're reading. So each symbol gives you a few examples to read the character. So emotions, they called the seven disease pathogens, the seven evil
The translation.
seven, yes, the translation is hard. The seven energy pathways. So in the Chinese terms, energy, emotions are flow of energy, and each emotion gives us direction to the energy inside of us. Because when we're angry, the face becoming red, the fist becoming really energetic, all the energy flows, flush ups. In sadness, everything dissolve inside. We're really the chi, yes, and the chi is dispersed. In fear, the chi is contract, really contract. Happiness is full flow, expansion. So every emotion gives us an internal directions of the chi. So when we're speaking about emotion, we are directly speaking about energy flow inside of our body. So emotions are dimension. They are dimension that we are patrolling in, but this so the emotion can control us, and the emotion can be controlled by only acknowledging that this is the energy that now flowing in our body, not resisting the direction.
Ooh, I love the way you're saying that. It's like noticing the emotion and owning it. That's the way to actually, instead of it controlling us, that we can actually control it or affect it to some degree.
And like we spoke in the last podcast about breathing and how it's relating to the immune system. So breathing relating also to the to become conscious about the emotions. When I breathe, I can see my emotion. And then if I want to pass on this emotion, just breathe into it.
I'm curious, are you specifically saying like conscious intentional breath? Like when you're like a meditation to some degree?
No. It's really simple. It's really practical way. It's cycle breathing. I'm not stopping my breath at all. Like a baby. Babies, they breathe constantly without stopping until the age of 2, between 2 to 4, when they starting dealing with their emotions for the first time, and when they suppress their emotion for the first time, and they stopping their breath. And then afterwards, when the individual will need to process or deal with the same emotion that made him stop his breath for the first time, it will happen again, because the individual doesn't have the tools to process this emotion. And the main tool is breath.
Wow. I didn't know that. That's really cool. So I'm curious what you, I mean, I've studied breath from like a meditation place and a yoga place. Like I know that breath is like one of the easiest like tools that we all have accessible to us. Like when we're stressed and when like breathing and intentionally breathing like activates the parasympathetic nervous system and relaxing. So actually one of the things that I do with my little one, with Kalista, is that like whenever she has a lot of fire in her, like one of her main things that she goes to is this like anger and fire. And one of the things that I've been just like constantly working with her, she's now almost 4. So she's in this phase in this age range that you're talking about, is like when she just starts to like kind of just explode with emotion, I'm like, okay, let's take a breath together. Let's take a breath. So I'm like constantly like reminding her, and and sometimes she even does it on her own. She'll like start to get upset, and then she'll be like, it's like so amazing. So tell me what's happening with her, like when she's like learning this pattern of like noticing a big emotion and then breathing. Do you know?
Yes. So we can explain it in a much more simple way. So we spoke about Whoo Whei, doing by not doing. So when we're inhaling and exhaling, we are becoming acknowledging of the energy that's already flowing, because the body and the nature is in constant contraction and expansion, always expansion and contraction. In every aspect in life, there is expansion and contraction. In nature, in human beings, in seasons, weather, everything.
Emotions.
Exactly. So when we're breathing, we're becoming acknowledged of the expansion. We're inhaling, expansion, and exhaling, contraction. So in every breath, in every inhalation, we are rebirthing. There is new life that's coming inside, and in expansion, in an exhalation, we're dying. Something dying inside of us. We are taking out all of the poison. So one term is life coming inside, and the other one passing on all the things that we don't need. So when we are breathing during a process of emotion, we can extract all the emotion baggage that there is inside of the process, understanding that now this is the emotion that rules. Okay, I don't need it anymore. I let it go. So letting go of everything really relates to the breath, because that's the most fundamental mechanism that the body understands what it needs and what it doesn't need.
Tell me if I'm like kind of gathering this correctly. So to be in relationship with our emotions is like to be in relationship with our breath. And so like with the inhale, the expansion, it's like letting energies and emotions in and tapping into that, but then also the duality and having the counter, the exhale, like it's like the complements of life. Like there's always the 50% negative and the 50% positive. And it's like being in relationship. But I'm still curious, like if because one of the things that I've seen in myself and I've seen people is that we like kind of stop breathing. You named this with the kids also. So like sometimes we unconsciously, we don't mean to, but we kind of stop breathing, or we like breathe really shallow. And probably there's probably a big connection between like anxiety and depression and like stress. So what would you tell someone who's like noticing this, or who's having this kind of like heavy contracted emotion and like maybe not breathing very much? Like what would you say?
So the first thing to understand why it's happened unconsciously, because that's the narrative that's the brain, that's really, this is the narrative that's bringing difficulty into the brain. So the brain does everything to avoid it. And then it's happening unconsciously. So
to
the first
avoid
thing,
the negative emotion, or to avoid what the brain is trying to avoid?
the
So
emotion,
something sad or something upsetting happens and the brain's trying to avoid it.
Baggage.
And so then the body kind of responds by like staying in contraction.
To suppress it. The body does everything to suppress this emotion, to not deal with it.
Avoid pain.
Yes. So my advice for that is just to observe it, and just to see that this is what happened when I'm getting activated by this emotion. And by becoming acknowledged that and observing that, we can see it coming every time it comes. And then when it comes, we can practice ourselves just to sit and to breathe without any more directions or activities. Just to sit down and breathe and to see what happens for a few minutes.
it's just to sit and be with, but it's also so huge to be present with ourselves, to sit with ourselves, to notice, to be aware of our internal reality, to notice our breathing, to notice our emotion. It is just a but it's also huge. It's like it's not a normal reflex. Our normal reflex is to distract ourselves or to, watch something or eat something, as opposed to just.
And especially because of our environment is teaching us to suppress, because our environment and our reality, it's all about that. Just keep on working and having.
Will you specify environment? Which kind of environment are you talking about? Like our culture, or which
culture,
environment?
Yes.
Our culture, yeah. 100%. Yeah. We've all, I don't know, this question might be totally out there, but like, I know that like in our modern culture, in all of this overabundance of screens and technology and all of this, we can work all the time. Do you know, like, if this is like a modern thing of like the last 100 years of our environment affecting this? I know this is like you can say pass on this question, but I know Chinese medicine goes back so far that there's like, do you know from the text, like, was this also something that humans before us modern humans?
So I think for the past 2,000 years, we're getting really far away from our true essence of our being. And because of that, because we are so far away from our essence, everything is confused. We are using our mouth and our words not to the specific thing that they're coming to do. Our words and our verbal context is only what the heart want to express. And because of the practical reality, because of the shows that we need to put on, the mask that we need to put on, we are letting our words, we are putting so much on our words that they are distracting the true word that the heart wants to say, what it feels. Wow. And it's all about that, because if a person, when we are hearing someone speaks, we are hearing his heart, nothing else. Because of our reality and our culture, people got so far away and using the words not to express their heart and their feelings. And because of that, all of the confusions happening. Because of that, we can't deal with our emotions. And that's the most difficult task that there is. Everybody's dealing with that. Everyone dealing with their emotions, and there's no speaking about it. You see, we are doing podcasts about it, but we don't see it on the news. We don't see, and that's the most deep healing that a person can do and have, is just to deal with the true reality that there is, which is emotions and expression.
Wow, I feel really touched like by this last little piece that you shared, and the like bringing in and talking about the heart and talking about speaking from the heart. It's
he's the emperor. He's the emperor, the organ emperor. He's pumping life and vitality into every cell. And now Western medicine approved by testing and medical views that actually the heart organ controls the emotion. And in every emotion, the movement starts from the heart. So if this is the emperor, and the emperor is now feeling sadness, so every cell of our body knows sadness because the emperor knows sadness. And that goes into every emotion that we are having. So if you're not dealing with sadness truly all the way, So sadness will rule our emotional status and our life, because that's what the heart will pump into every cell.
I would love to hear what your version of deal with the sadness means, because I know there's kind of like when sadness comes up, we can either resist it and like try to not feel it or pretend it's not there, or deal with it. So what's your perspective on that? I'd love to hear it.
So in every emotion, not only sadness, a person needs to be able to sustain the emotion. And when it's hard and you can't do it alone, friends and family and people around helps us, because we express it, we're speaking about it, we're crying about it, we're taking a walk with it, and we're processing it. So it's only the idea, which is really individual for every person, how to deal with their emotion. For one person, it will be exercising. For another, it will be writing. And for another, it will be going out with their loved ones, to going out, eat something, taking a walk.
But somehow processing it and dealing with it and being
And
with
each
it.
person needs to understand and to investigate which way is the most suitable for him to deal with that.
Can I ask you, what is your way? What is your personal way of dealing with your emotions?
So for me, it's really being quiet, because my reality, and I think for most of us, the reality is really busy. It's packed with noise. So when we're coming back into silence, we can see what there is truly, without all the external noise. Just being around nature, and meditate, just to be in quiet, bringing peace. That's the most simple principle that we are living by, to live in peace. That's what every individual seeks and wishes for him. So make it happen. Make peace with yourself. And the most practical way to make peace is to come back to silence.
Yeah. Yeah, my go-to way is going walking by myself, without my phone, without anything, just with myself, and ideally in nature. It's much harder like if I'm around a bunch of noise in a city, or like ideally nature and walking and being with myself, feeling myself. I also feel like there's a component of like kind of letting my brain kind of chew on things and like kind of figure it out or go over it. Like I like to think of it almost like a processing, like that my brain kind of has to like process it, and I kind of gonna give it space to process I feel like it's both in my brain and in my body. Like there's the emotion of it, like I give it space to be there, and then also like kind of let my brain.
And like I'm using your words, when you're using nature, and what nature does to us, that we're seeing green in the eyes. Most of our view is green, and the color green helps us deal with our emotions. And that's also science tells us why a person choose this clothing with this color, because this color gives him the need and the essence that the person wants to put inside of himself through the color. So the color green brings us back where? Home, into nature. Because we see in nature that everything starts from the color green. Also in fruits, before they're ready, they're not ripe, they're green, they're growing. Something really new, something really fresh, something really clean, because it's not ripe yet. It's not the final product. So every time when we are into really hard processing and we don't see the outcome, we can come back into more simple and Yes, it's a more
Healing.
simple way to look at reality. This is what it is.
Well, I've never heard, I mean, I know that like I've always associated green with like a healing energy, you know. Do you have any idea what I know that you said that there's science backing of it, but like do you know how the green affects us? Like, is it go into our eyes, or do you know what the details
So
on that are?
that's
It's really
more,
interesting.
so that's more from my studies of Kabbalah. I'm studying Kabbalah. And this is a really simple, that gives a really simple method to look at reality and how our soul is reacting into every component of the universe. And they explains through colors how this map works. So the green comes in a very early stage of development of the environment and the reality. It's coming a very originally a component. So yeah, so it's just coming back. It's coming back to realizing and remembering.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Really beautiful. Oh, it makes me want to go out for a walk and be in nature. It's like one of my favorite things to do. Yeah. Okay. So is there anything else? I know we want to keep this talk on the shorter side today, but is there anything else you want to talk about or mention that you have on your mind as far as mood? We didn't really get into, actually,
Yes.
I do want to ask you, go ahead.
Yes, so we can speak about mood a little bit. And before we're speaking about mood, we need to understand something on our body. We're speaking about conscious, we're speaking about emotions, but if we're speaking in a more physical or yes, more in the physical way, we are just a factory of hormones. We are a chemical factory, actually a chemical factory. So when we're speaking about the self inside of that factory, this is the manager of the factory. So if I'm understanding that I'm the manager and I'm influencing the product of my factory, I need to understand that every action that I'm doing is manufacture hormones, and each hormones relates and influence my mood. An example, dopamine. Okay, dopamine is extracted when I'm eating food, healthy food, when I'm achieving a goal, and when I'm sleeping enough, and when I'm taking a good bath. So if I want to influence this one hormone in my body, I'm making sure that I'm eating good food, that I'm writing down my goals, and to see how I'm achieving every day part of my goals. And I can go further into endorphin, oxytocin, and serotonin. It's all related to that. So when I'm speaking about the manager inside of the factory, I'm thinking about, does this manager get enough rest today?
Who is the manager? The manager is
It's
our
the
self.
It's the self. It's the soul. It's the my consciousness.
Okay.
My conscious being.
So
And the factory and the chemical is more the physical being. It's the earthly being.
Okay.
And the manager is the heavenly being.
Okay. The kind of self, the intangible self. And then the factory is the body and the actual physical hormones that are being created. And then the physical hormones in affect the emotions.
Exactly. And the emotions also affects the mood. So it's just a circle. it's a circle which everything relates to everything and everything affects everything. So by acknowledging, by using the self, I can observe it. I can just see the circle, and to see that there is a circle which everything relates to that circle and everything feeds and nourish this circle. So I understand which action that I'm doing, what is my activity, which helps the circle just flow. Yes?
Yes.
So if I understand that it's not just healthy to go outside into the sun, it's actually extracting serotonin from my body. So that helps me to get that hormone that I need every day.
Right. So like we can have a bad mood that might come from our hormones.
Lack of hormones. Exactly.
And we can both eat things and do things and feel things that help us actually produce those happy hormones that help.
Exactly. And not all knows that if we're speaking about the factory and the most efficient hours of extracting these hormones, the most efficient time of the day, which the body is in efficiency, is from 4 a.m. into noon, is 8 hours, which the blood is being bombarded into hormones. So that's really efficient time to affect these hormones.
And how do you recommend doing that? How do you recommend affecting these hormones during those hours?
Eating good meal, going outside, doing exercise or activity, reading. That's the most efficient time to read, to dance, to laugh. Because in this time, there are abundance of hormones in the body. After noon, everything starts to decline very much.
I'm a little bit familiar with the way that Chinese medicine looks at the time of the day and that there's different organs that are at different strengths. But from what I'm hearing you say about 4 a.m. to noon, from what I can understand is that it's like you're saying that it's like the time where our body is kind of like the most receptive to like invigorating and balancing and helping out our hormones and our mood. Is that a fair conclusion?
Mm-hmm.
So eat good food, be in the sun, exercise, read, kind of like what you're saying is like the self-care.
These are the most efficient time that we can affect our body and bringing it into much more higher efficiency in every level that we want.
And so I'm curious because like most people work in the morning. Most people like they do their self-care, their exercise or whatever after work or after at the end of the day. So I'm curious like how would you, in an ideal world, how would a person, if they want to feel the happiest and take the best care of themselves, how would you recommend someone like navigate work and like what's your kind of, do you have an idea of like the ideal?
To give himself 1 hour before everything, before work, that in this hour he invests in himself, reading something, making good breakfast, and going outside, meditate, an hour before everything, because that's the most efficient time of our body. Our body is waking up in the morning. Most of us waking up with lack of energy during mornings, but this is the most efficient time of our body. We're waking up, there's abundance of chi, abundance of energy in our body. We are much more awake. The body, that's the time where the body is much more, is ready to sustain new information. After that, that's just, it's much more harder to the body to digest and process new information.
Interesting. So if I want to make changes to my mood, if I want to invest in feeling better with my mood, then one of the best things I can do is do my self-care time before noon in the morning as opposed to in the evening. Because it's basically what you're saying, it's just less effective. It's less efficient to do it
And
later.
there are
in
a
the
lot
day.
of people which say, I'm really used to do things at night. I'm much more efficient at night. But that's just the habits. That's just the habits speaking.
The pattern, yeah. Interesting. Cool. I mean, I've always known that the morning is like a really important time, but I'd never connected it to this like input of energy into our factory, into our hormones, that's really cool. Beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful. So can I ask you as one final question, can I ask you what your morning self-care practice looks like?
So for me, I'm waking up early between 6 to 7 or from 7 to 8 if I'm going to sleep late. And I meditate for 10 minutes. I do some breathing exercise and then I pray. It's like an hour routine. And it's for me, it's the best.
What is the benefit? What is the effect that you feel? Because what's the selling point?
Brightness.
Brightness.
I think I said it last time. Spirituality beneficial, spirituality outcomes is realism. From realism, we can free from everything, from every suffering there is. And that free of suffering is brightness, is to see bright at things as they are and not something that I'm putting inside of my mind. So as much as I'm bright in my thinking and in my mind, that gives me much more sharp realism about everything. And that realism can free me.
So that time, that hour in the morning where you spend meditating and breathing and praying is like your like way of kind of really being with yourself, realizing, being in that realism place that then gives you like that brightness, that the result is like you have this kind of cleared out, bright, you've like lowered your internal suffering, you've processed things, you've realized yourself in a place that you can get to this like bright place.
Because it's all about that. It's all about how not being in resistance. Because if I'm not in resistance and the chi is flowing naturally in my body, so also in my mind, there is no resistance. There is no resistance in my mind. I'm fully aware about my being and about my surrounding. I see things as they are, and then when I see things as they are, I don't have suffering, because this is what it is. I'm not giving my interpretation of the self that's being related into the reality. It's a paradox. It's a paradox because afterwards I'm going outside and I'm being related with reality, and things can move me, and
then you need to do it again and again.
But for me, it's just important because it brings balance. It brings me back into my natural space.
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't use this word, but I feel like part of the equation is like the acceptance of reality, the acceptance, because the real suffering comes when we're resisting, and like being with ourselves, being with reality, doing that inner work, spending that time. It's like that lowering the resistance, increasing the acceptance, which gives us that space and that brightness, as you say. Beautiful. Amazing. Thank you, Yotam. Thank you so much for your wisdom and sharing your heart. I really, really love this part of talking about your heart. Wow, it's really beautiful. Thank you for that. And yeah, thank you for everything.
I'm really happy that we're doing this, and that can maybe help other people and help them understand themselves and their dance with the reality, and how to dance more calmly and happily.
And breathe more.
Yes.
Yeah, let's. Yes, amazing. Thank you, Yotam. I look forward to doing more of these with you.
Yes. Toda raba.
All right, everyone. See you next time. Thank you so much for being here.